We gotta make it official.
Yeah. See up there? We gotta wait for a.
Tick, 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 tick.
Oh, okay.
I think we need to buy
So that's your
Commissioner
first
Solomon a
mistake.
new
Come on,
house.
Get with it.
You burned your one and only mistake. You're allowed.
He's ready to go. It doesn't count because the meeting's not started yet.
That's true.
I'll simply hand it over to
Rock and roll.
you. It said 6:30 on my screen. That's why I said.
Oh, it
It
does.
does, yeah. So the clock doesn't match the screen.
Microsoft time says it's time to start.
We'll talk to IT about that.
And Apple time.
Yeah.
I think like the chair can start the meeting anytime he wants.
Pick a time. Pick a time, Mr. Chair. What time would you like to start the meeting?
Go ahead, PJ. You can start if you want.
Okay, let's get started. Doug, could you please take the roll call?
Commissioner Conroy,
Here.
Commissioner Castle,
Here?
Vice Chair Jesse,
Yeah, here.
Commissioner Woodham,
Here.
Commissioner Samples.
Sure.
Tonight we have absent is Commissioner Chair Marin is absent tonight. I just want to note, former Commissioner
Solomon?
Eugene Solomon is now the elected treasurer, so he can no longer serve on the commission. He's here tonight to speak on a blue folder item, so we can congratulate him again at that point.
Okay, the next item is salute to the flag, so let's all.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item D, approve the order of agenda. Anyone wants to second it?
I'll second.
Was there a motion for the approval?
I moved, yeah,
Okay,
I moved to approve the order of agenda.
and second by Commissioner Castle. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the item E, the blue folder items, Doug, do we?
Yes,
Okay, E1, for
Doug's gonna let us know what the blue folder
Yeah.
items are.
yes.
the finance director, Wendy,
Commissioner Jessica? Doug will let us know what the blue folder items are.
Sure.
yeah, Doug, what blue folder items do we
Chair,
have?
we've got a few blue folder items tonight.
Two?
We've got a couple. The first, we'll have Treasurer Solomon come up and speak on behalf of his item. And then we'll be followed by discussion item. We'll move on to a discussion item later on for Wendy Colazzo, Finance Director. So,
Good evening, members of the commission. Eugene Solomon, Redondo Beach, appearing before you tonight as Redondo Beach City Treasurer. In my capacity as a commissioner, we had discussions about receiving the monthly investment reports when they were presented by our investment advisory, FHN. This evening, I submitted to Doug the item as a blue folder item. We didn't receive the monthly investment report until after your agenda was posted. In the future, going forward, what we would like to do, or what I plan on doing in the department, is having these available for you as a consent calendar item so that I can get them to the finance team, Doug and the finance team, before the agenda is formatted, so that if you wish, you have additional time to review them, and that if you wish to have any discussions, you could always pull that consent calendar item, and I will be available for those discussions to answer any questions that you might have regarding what FHN is doing, what our department is doing, or just general comments about the report, suggestions and information, feedback that you might like to provide.
First of all, congratulations on your new position.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to working with you. Question as it relates to that. That all makes sense. But if we have a question, I want to pull it from the consent calendar. Does that mean that you're planning to be a part of the beginning of each meeting, at least through the consent calendar portion, or is it something where we would let Doug know individually if we wanted to pull it, and then he would let you know to be here? How would that work?
My interest is in being as supportive to the commission, as transparent and available for public information as possible. So this was a promise that I made. It will be my goal to appear before you and to be available to answer any questions you might have at these meetings. It might be via Zoom, it might be in person, but for each of those reports, my goal is to try and be available to you to answer questions. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Samuels? You look like you had a query for
Well, I
me.
was going to say something. First of all, I have to second Commissioner Conroy's acknowledgement of your new position and really appreciate you being here. And I think your experience here on the Budget and Finance Commission will guide you a lot in what we're trying to do and what we're thinking about. And I do appreciate you doing this time. This is a first-time snapshot. It's a monthly report, correct?
Yes, that's correct. This is the March report.
Okay.
Which will, I'm certain, be soon followed by the treasurer's quarterly reports as we come forward. There should also be an investment report there from FHN, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I did meet with Rick Phillips, who we all know from FHN, the investment advisory. Have met with our new finance director, Wendy Colazo. I think you'll all find her, as I did, to be a knowledgeable person and ready to get going, and a big help to this commission. And have met with other entities to get started as we move forward since April 4th swearing-in ceremony.
Well, I look forward to looking at these as snapshots and helping to create the conversation on the quarterly and annual reports. And I really do appreciate you moving this forward. It's always been public record, but for some reason, this commission has had difficulty in finding those nexus between us and other people in our finance community. So I look forward to working with you and our new finance director.
I'm a big believer in relying upon the expertise in the community and the commissions. I found this commission to be a really great experience with a huge knowledge base. So I would hope that my goal is that with you receiving the quarterly reports, it won't be something where you'll have the quarterly report presented to you at a last minute, or over the course of the months, you'll have a little bit of a ramp up, some time to digest it, and an opportunity to ask more formative questions at the time in which we do the quarterly reviews. That's really the main goal. But if there are things that come up on a monthly report that stick out, certainly have an opportunity to talk about them.
Thank you.
That's it. I thank you all very much. Appreciate it going forward. Welcome any of the questions, any of the suggestions. Eugene.solomon@redondo.org. It's all set up. I've got it on my phone, ready to respond and answer any questions that you might have. Thanks very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Doug, any other blue folder items?
Yeah, we have one more item from our finance director. She'll speak on it after we go through the consent item, go through the rest of the agenda. But just want to make sure that I've made copies for all of you, put on the dais there. So just want to get a motion to receive and file the blue folder items.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Item F, consent calendar. Has there been any change since the last calendar, or do we simply move on?
So this particular item is a consent calendar. You've got a couple items on there, just the affidavit of posting of the meeting itself. You've got approval of the minutes from the prior meeting. You don't have to approve each item separately. The consent calendar is set to approve all the items in one motion.
Move to approve the consent calendar as proposed.
Second.
Okay.
I move that we approve the consent calendar and
Or do we have to do we have to do a roll call vote?
We can do a roll call vote if you guys want, but I think the motions were already set, correct? Commissioner Samples motioned and Commissioner Conroy second. And
Commissioner Samples, was that, was your motion to receive and file both F1 and F2?
Correct. Consent calendar as written.
okay.
Okay.
And why don't we just do a roll call vote for the heck of it, okay? Commissioner Conroy,
Aye.
Commissioner Castle,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jesty,
aye.
Commissioner Woodham,
Aye.
Commissioner Samples.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, item F2, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting that we had on February 9th.
Okay, sorry, Vice Chair Jesse, that's part of the consent calendar and it's already been approved. So you can move on to item G.
Yeah, we approved that when we approved the whole consent calendar.
There are no excluded consent items, so move on to H.
Move on to item H.
Yes, so I think we don't have
public
any excluded
participation?
consent calendar items for G. So you can move on to item H. And you can hold on, that's my part.
H1, any e-comments or emails?
Let's see. We did not have any speakers on Zoom and we do not have any comments.
Okay, the next item, items continued from previous agendas.
Yep, there's none there. We don't have any there.
Items for discussion prior to action.
Yes, we have one item. This is related to the blue folder item that you received. I want to introduce our new finance director, Wendy Colazzo. She's been with us for a couple weeks now. So I think all of you had a chance, hopefully, to introduce yourself, but she's here to present.
Well, good evening. It's a pleasure. Wendy Colazzo, Finance Director, and it's been 2 weeks today. So be gentle. So it's a, really great pleasure to be here. And, I wanted to kind of paint the picture as we start what I hope to be a really long relationship. I have seen some of your meetings online and wanted to just kind of get the tone and, filling some major shoes from a previous finance director of over 30 years and trying to recreate, but also put my own flair and spin. Just a little background, for the purposes of this commission. I have a bachelor's in finance and economics, a master's in accounting, and currently working on a doctorate in information technology for financial system deployment. I was in the Marine Corps, one of the finest institutions aside from the city of Redondo Beach. And I'm pretty much a straight shot, never will be a ninja or a spy because I don't work on code, and I depend a lot on my commissions to tell me what it is that you're looking for so we can give you relevant, information. I think our biggest mission here as for the residents is to take complex matters and deliver them in a method in which everybody can understand them and can be clear as mud, right? And that you guys can make accurate and appropriate recommendations to a council so they have good data and support and we can continue the mission to serving our residents. So that's my plain and simple goal. I promise to you never to, if I don't know, I'm going to tell you that. But by God, I will, promise. I get better as the time goes on, kind of like a fine wine, if you can call it that. And then, like I said, today, you're going to see some things that normally, given the time frame, might not have all the components, that you were used to, maybe a ton of spreadsheets and things of that matter. But what we did do is do the due diligence to go through every major parameter and give you a good status point of where we are with revenues, expenditures, our burn rate, and how we're performing up to this point in mid-year. As you know, with all the transition, we're a bit delayed, but we are fighting and getting back online to have a good timeline as we shotgun this to get ready for the city manager and the council for budget adoption by May 18th. 15th, 18th or so by charter. So I will be reviewing the administrative report. I'll give you a snapshot of our general fund, major funds, revenues, and estimates of where we're projected to end. Also expenditures on the same route for all funds. I'll give you a good synopsis where we're trending. If you have any questions that have either you've always had or want answered, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. I'd be more than happy to. And like I said, if I can't promise that I know every little detail today. I also should have noted the city manager was going to be here, but he's a little sick. And if you saw the council meeting, he had a little eye thing going on. I think it's safer for all of us, and he felt the same. So he regressed today. So like I said, I'll begin going just your administrative report. I know it's a lot of information, and I kind of the same way as the treasurer mentioned, I don't like to skid into deadlines and stuff, so you'll have enough time to hopefully regurgitate, or if you have trouble sleeping at night, you could read this well ahead of the commission meeting so you can have your questions. Feel free, though, as we end tonight, too, if you have any additional questions that didn't come up, I'm always open and be more than happy to answer any questions after the fact or during so that we can get you appropriate answers and you have a good level of confidence beyond that. So getting started here, you could see the administrative report. Obviously, budget was passed 22-23. Which was adopted for the operating budget. This report is your mid-year review, which will give you a good synopsis of ending fund balances. We have the ACFR still going, as many of you have heard. The GASB 87, entries and adjusting entries has caused this delay just because it's a new implementation for this year. So we're almost there. However, we did get review from the auditor saying that none of those outcomes of GASB 87 will affect us materially so that we could move forward with the draft numbers confidently that there was no material change that was expected. Okay. Moving to the first or back by the background page of the administrative report, this gives you a synopsis which is going to correlate to your second sheet as I move over of your fund summaries. This gives you the general fund balance before any assignments and transfers as of June 30th, 2022 draft with $12.8 million. The calculation takes out committed fund balance. That's your 8.33 general fund reserve that is required for contingency for the city council. Your non-spendable, again, these are loans to employees such as computer purchases and pursuant to, any labor agreements. That's at $18,605. And then fund balance assignment, these were for compensated absences, $785,832. And then any petty cash in circulation for our cashiers, $12,800. Bringing down your general fund remaining fund balance after all commitments at $3,422,710. What does that all mean? It just means we started with $12 million, and then we had some items that are not considered to ever be cash. They're going to be like prepaids or commitments that we have in contingency or any of that matter that we're not going to be able to spend, and this is really what we have to spend. That's the simple exercise of that. Just to counterbalance and make sure that we're in balance with the general fund remaining balance, unassigned on the top at $253K. Again, that exercise non-spendable fund balances, your encumbrances at $1,270,389, and then fund balance assignments for carryovers at $1,845,807. Again, leaving and rebalancing that to $3,422,710. As you see, the top equals the bottom, and we are balanced for the remaining fund balance. Some of the questions that were originally presented in this admin report, we tried to answer given the situation and the circumstance of transition. So one of them was what additional items adjust the beginning fund balance to their estimated ending. There's an explanation for you there. I'm not sure if you've always gotten it written or read to, but I will. So in the addition to the general fund, adopted revenues and transfers in and out, the adopted appropriations and transfers out, the following items have been adjusted. The beginning fund balance to the estimated ending fund balance. And then the remaining and ending fund balance for all of the funds are calculated. So this is really telling you the methodology on how we go about calculating from beginning to ending fund balance for you. Okay. what mid-year adjustments or appropriations or adjustments to the estimated fund balance are recommended. So I'm giving you here just a small snapshot because you'll see it in future spreadsheets that we have for you. Revenues received to date were reviewed and measured against adopted budget, right? The revised estimates that you'll see on Exhibit B, the general fund, we've anticipated to be at about $1.1 million increase from the projected budget. So performance is trending well. I will be honest with you that some things like TOT, right, and franchise taxes, I was a little bit more conservative because I'd like to prepare, just because I don't have all the economic trends going on right now, but I'd like to prepare not for the worst, but a conservative approach to it and report better news, because we do see that at the same time this year, there was a little bit more that was received in TOT. However, I don't know how deep we've recovered from the somber, whether it be COVID, the economy, the weather, all those effects that we have to take into place. So I want to do the due diligence to dig a little bit further, but for this exercise, I wanted to tell you we were projecting overall, just in tax general revenue, an increase of about conservatively 1%. So we're trending well. There is room for a little bit more, but we'll see how that develops. But I wanted to give you, like I said, I'm a conservative budgeteer, and budget is, like what I say, is an art form a little bit. You know, we'll get to goal, but we will update that as I can give you more material and dig into that. But as of right now, we are trending better than expected. Okay. At the same year, the appropriations and the recommendations for that, in the exhibits, you'll see that we did do appropriations and the performance. Now, we're looking to have significant savings within all our funds in M&O. However, you know, because of the overall situation and in preparation for the things that may come, like the salary study that's being happened, personnel costs increasing as they are, any excess funds that we are doing, just because this year, due to the time frame, we didn't do what you would normally see would be decision packages, adjusting a ton of other things. Directors didn't. We didn't have the time to meet, just given the circumstances, right? We know that we're trending with some significant savings that could come on the M&O side. Personnel and payroll, we will dig in a little bit deeper, where we are trending to stay, you know, on track. But any additional or excess, you know, dollars that we have, we're projected to keep with the same plan that was presented before, with the upcoming and potential personnel costs that we may have. We'll put it towards those efforts at this time. Obviously, the goal will be to get back to the same schedule as you're used to at mid-year, well ahead, with maybe some decision packages. But at this time, we're keeping that conservative and trending as we do for the end of the year, as we get ready to go to proposed budget. That's the kind of simple skinny on it, as far as like the vision and goal of it. And then, of course, as you saw there, are we really devising? No decision packages are being presented at this time due to, again, the transition and recommendation of the CM. We don't see any, not need, but anything that warrants that, as we are seeing, like I said, things trending at a typical pace, you know, and may exceed expectations at some point, but we'll know deeper in the future. Any impact or what's the status of preparation of the 23-24 budget? To be honest with you, we couldn't go any faster than this right now. We're going to get done right here with this mid-year, and we are to adoption by May, mid-May. So it's going to be a race to the finish, but we'll get back in line. And like I said, this is where it's adamant, and it's so important for you to kind of tell us what information is super relevant to you, so that you can have these great, strong recommendations, because we are going to go pretty fast to be in compliance for proposed budget. So feel free, like I said, to advise on what information are you looking for that would be helpful for you to make any recommendations and align to what you would see with council and what you would like them to consider as well. Some of the attachments that you have that you'll see that will come through is the 22-23 fund summaries. Excuse me, I missed the fund matrix on the top. The council approved appropriation modifications. We have a listing of that. The adjustments to revenue, as I spoke for, the general fund and major funds are there. And then adjustments to appropriations on a kind of 100,000-foot view here. And the ISF allocations by fund and functional area that I'll review and give you a synopsis. Any questions, comments? Should I pause?
I think Mel had a question. No, I don't, but I just wanted to make sure she caught it.
So if I heard you correctly, at this point, there are no recommendations for any adjustments or any year-end adjustments or allocations based on where we're at. Nothing's going to go to the city council that we're not hearing about.
Right, there's no decision packages being,
No decision, that everything's flat.
yes, sir.
I will make one other comment, and I know you're new in the role, so it's not fair to spend a lot of time dwelling on it. But when I look through the detail that you've got in the package, and unfortunately, we just got to see this tonight, so I may be wrong in this. But when I start getting into the departments themselves, particularly police and fire, there is one heading area that's called police department. There's another one called, and then it's got total police department. And then it's got the various divisions, the administration division and so forth. And the same way with fire. There are a number of things that appear to be out of alignment with prior methods. So when you first glance at those, for instance, let me go back to police here. You've got things like, where did it go? Emergency Communications Division, it looks like they spent a lot of money. When you get down into the individual divisions within it, there are what appear to be offsetting numbers. I don't know if this is a roll-up that didn't roll up right, or somehow things were lumped into one place and left out of others, but just, it's an observation because it makes things look very, very skewed. You get to places where it looks like there's a 5,978% increase in costs, and that doesn't appear to be correct.
Are you talking about the
Unfortunately, I don't have page numbers. I would love to give you page numbers.
Sure. Is it the internal service fund analysis that you're referencing?
This is, no, this is the page after the citywide ISF analysis, where it begins. I'm not sure exactly what the title might be.
That would be
Oh,
the.
yeah, I guess it is internal
Yes.
service funds. Okay.
Yep, that is the ISF by
Okay. Yeah.
department and
So
division.
you get to the ISF and the numbers just seem to be a little bit crazy. So it's just an observation, and I don't know if it makes any sense. So I don't know if there should be a comment here or not.
Well, I'll give you some background on the ISF one. You know, I can't take credit for the ISF as quite thankfully our previous finance director, Ms. Marney, longstanding here, was the one who prepared this because it was tying and connecting dots from past years that there was no way with the person of my knowledge of this city would have been able to connect what happened. Some of the lines normally in past practice would have all filled out to tell you every nitty gritty as to what happened, but due to that time constraint of her getting the ISF ready for us to give us a fighting chance here, she only did the major items. So we can come back to kind of finesse that a little bit more, but this is one of those exercises that was necessary in order to get, you know, on the map per se, you know, with her institutional knowledge.
Right. So, and that is, I think that's exactly my point. And we've had discussions here, just for your reference, we've had discussions here for years about how the ISF is allocated, what it does, and where does it make sense and not make sense. And this might be one of those areas where, once again, part of it doesn't make sense. So when you break ISF down to a division level within the police department, it might not make sense. So.
Absolutely.
Just a comment.
No, I appreciate that, you know, because we can definitely, you know, as I think we learned together, the methodologies, right? I'm the same way, is that I'll learn the methodologies to what went into it, because from a divisional sense, it might not make overall, I mean, from a fund and citywide, your ISF went up 3%, right? Which is consistent economically with what's going on, which is a good thing, right? So you went from 31 to about 32.5 mil, in allocations across everything. So that was consistent. Marnie felt the same way, that there was nothing out of norm. But as you get into what you see, I wanted you guys to see the guts of it, to be able to give me some feedback as to what are the things that kind of cause that question mark for you. And I will definitely dig into this to give you a little bit better picture as to answering those questions of the significant spikes or not. So I've noted that.
Well, you just started. You've got a lot of time. You don't have to do it next month.
Well,
Have fun.
no, like I said, I appreciate that. So I'll definitely note that and, give you a little deeper dive into that and answer those questions.
Very good.
Perfect.
Commissioner Gordon, do you have any?
No.
I had one comment. Last year, we discussed quite a few times about the money being spent by the city for the homeless people, and there is no one single line item anywhere in the budget, so it's probably must be coming from different departments. And we suggested that we have some visibility for what we're spending, and I read someplace recently that the state has allocated something like $1.5 billion for the homeless issue. How much of that money is the city supposed to get, or what can we get to mitigate the impact on the bottom line? So if we can identify that, and we can talk about it next time. At least for the 23-24 budget year.
Absolutely. And I think on one of your council meetings, I saw that. I lightly have talked to just staff to get like ideas and kind of start, because there are some measures already that are being done. Like our grants administrator has shared, like projects are classified what goes to start. They are tracking certain things now, compiling that in the presentation of it. That's what we got to kind of dig in after this to see what would be relevant, so that we can give you exactly what you're looking for, is how much of the dollars are going in towards those efforts, and then opportunities that we may have, to continue those efforts. I don't have the plan just yet, but it is on our definitely to do, and how to, master that to give you relevant information. But I've noted that as well.
The second thing was we had presentations by all the department heads about the capital improvements. And if you total them up, they're way more than what we have allocated in the budget. So I don't know if we ever prioritized them or decided where to focus the next budget, and how much are we approving. So I don't know if the city council has made any decision. So this is something we'd like to see more of.
Absolutely. So I will tell you that, a lot of the directors and departments anyway, because you're just seeing mid-year right now, we're waiting for fund balance, right, to even know where they were on the map at this point. Specific to capital, he is working diligently right now to prioritize what he's going to do once he actually has some information that everybody's been patiently waiting on. So once they have that, they would present. I think the timing of us meeting with the Finance Commission, like right now, this mid-year, we really squeezed because we wanted to give you guys the opportunity, as rightfully so, the commission, to see this thing, whether ugly, pretty or not. Same thing with budget and everything. We're just so constrained with time, that we're making sure that we give you the time to review this. So I'm due to round with capital. We've already spoken about this because they needed a starting point, and we're waiting on the development of something, because as soon as we're kind of done with mid-year and we present to council, we're kicking right into budget, and this is relevant to that to know where we start. So they are prioritizing. I know that there's roughly about 117 active projects right now. As light conversation that we've had with CIP right now, they don't expect to add much more because it is pretty full. And then also trying to see if there's anything that's going to be pushed in or out, depending on what available funding there is. And that was what they were really waiting on, is to know what do they have on hand to spend to know what projects are going to be in there or not, or it'd have to be pushed if there's no, dollars to it or find funding to it. So we're on that right now. It's just, again, my apologies for this, is just the timing. I mean, I think I was told this is done normally January-ish, so we're kind of behind, and they've been patiently waiting as well to get their parts done. So, but I've noted that with capital improvement. We're trying to be respectful. It's my, like I said, goal to be partners with you, that we include you first so that you can get that first shot right and be able to make your recommendations. So we're trying to fit that in with getting everything approved and making sure that you guys got a good shot for it, and you're a priority for that, okay?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for this report. First question, as you know, we didn't see this until we sat down tonight, so we had zero time to go over it. So it makes it really hard to have, a meaningful conversation. Why was that? Is it just you guys were so busy, you literally just completed it like an hour before the meeting, or what happened there?
Well, one, to begin with, the ACFR was under development, and without having all the entries done for GASB 87, we weren't going to know what the impact was to fund balance, and we couldn't, mid-year is dependent on having those numbers. As with the efforts of the staff and CM getting updates from the auditors, we found that there would be no material entries or findings with GASB 87. So that's the first big delay, because we depend on fund balance, beginning balances to even start this up and kind of give you performance. To the transition of not having a finance director, and let me tell you, I have the sting in my eye, like I've been at a great party, but not a good story. It's been what seems like long nights for the last couple of days trying to develop something. And one, it's big shoes to fill to get you reporting that. It's rare, and it's an extensive review of financials. So the timing, given 2 weeks to onboard and just prep and get up to speed and hopefully earn my stripe, that was 2. So we wanted to give you something. And the kind of blue folder item was new to me, but it was a graceful little piece of information. But in calculating everything and trying to make sure that it was correct, all the intricacies of Redondo itself, to prepare fund balances and accurately, and have my staff have time. Lori is working, and hopefully we're trying to let her retire eventually. She's been reviewing. Doug, I mean, it's been all hands on deck for them to make sure that I give you accurate and updated information, and you get that. So yeah, we did screech to the end. And it takes a tribe. And like I said, I should have started actually the meeting by telling you that, but with Lori and Doug, it wouldn't have happened.
I understand. I appreciate all the work, in such a short period of time. And then we've got the budget right behind that. But from my perspective, even if we would have gotten this as a blue folder item at 3 or even 4 p.m., that would have been much better. So was it that, in your efforts to giving us accurate information and comprehensive information, that the reports were like literally printed minutes before we sat down?
They were. To be honest with you, Lori had sent all funds review and expenditure estimates at about 5 o'clock, 5:30.
Okay.
And, they did their due diligence to kind of help this little wobbly person over here who was keeping them behind. But we were literally printing as a couple of minutes ago. It's my practice, just so I can reassure you that I've never been familiar with a blue folder item. Like I said, that was like a curve to the test. But normally I like you to receive it, if possible, a week before, to be able to read it, get your notes down. Maybe even converse before it a little bit if you have any questions. That would be ideal. There should be no reason for next year as we normalize back up. But yeah, my apologies, but that's definitely, we were printing to the last minute.
No need to apologize. I was just trying to get a better understanding.
Yes, sir.
Can I make one comment there? I just want to explain, yes, I mean, we were working all week, many hours, no excuse, but just consider we want to give you guys a good product. I mean, we could easily send you something on Tuesday and then find mistakes and then come back and give you something again on Wednesday. And then not really be happy with it. I feel we better hold on to it, make sure everybody's comfortable with it. I think Wendy's comment, I kind of cringe because I said, I don't want to make it sound like Lori was holding up with last minute analysis. That wasn't the case. She's helping out as decisions are made. Maybe we should do it this way, maybe we should do it that way. That's kind of the explanation of, oh, can you do that real quick? Maybe we should add that, is the reason why she's saying Lori had, her analysis at that point in time. But it wasn't because of one person holding anything up. It was just the ideas going through. It's Wendy's first time. We'll have a lot more time next year. So considering the time, this is the best we could do.
Yeah, and thank you, Doug. If I gave any inkling that it was Lori holding us up, by no means. I meant it more like Lori came in and saved us as well as Doug, or saved me, right? I was dependent on them and learning from them to be respectful to their craft, because without them, like I said, this wouldn't have happened at all. So.
Understood. And fortunately, we don't have decision packages to go over, right? So that's helpful. And from what you said, everything's pretty steady, Eddie, with what the budget versus the mid-year amounts. But then I guess this goes perhaps back to Commissioner Sample's comment earlier. But when I get to that section that's right after attachment B1, page 4, where it has the gray header and it starts off with the line items beginning with mayor and city council department, and then there's a list of line items for each department. At least at the department level on this report, there's significant increases and decreases, 26% decrease, 25%, 61% decrease. So, and when I go over to the explanation of increases and decreases, most of those line items have no explanation. So am I to assume that things were just moved between departments? One thing that kind of stuck out to me was the information technology equipment replacement. For many departments, it was changed to 0, but not every department. And at least in some cases, it went up significantly. But, and in some cases, there is a explanation, or a note rather, that says no allocation for equipment utilized by all departments per methodology improvement. But on other line items for the same, or, in other departments for the same line item, there's no description at all, including where it increased. So, and that's just one example, because again, I've only had literally 10 minutes to spend with this. I don't even know if you would be able to speak to that specific activity.
Well, yeah, and obviously kind of the same response when I answered Commissioner Samples, Marnie filled this out, right, and was very, normally on a typical, I was informed by her and on the staff that each line would have had a reasoning at a certain, with variances as to what drove that. Given the time frame to have something, because it was a very critical piece, she did her due diligence to fill the major things that sometimes that institutional knowledge that she had, right? But on a typical, you would have had line by line. Some of the expenses in ISF, I can only speculate, right? I don't know. It could have meant that maintenance cost, fuel went up, right? Maybe a department didn't have any information technology equipment that they ordered this year, but somebody did. I'm not sure of that, or what happened. On a typical, you would have that line item by line item. This was more of a, get the ISF in to be able to adopt it to make those transitions. And based on Marnie's experience, when she looked at the net effect of everything at a 3%, it was consistent with CPI and inflation and what was going on. She felt comfortable that there was nothing skewed, and she did review. It's not like she only did little major components. She reviewed everything to see if there was anything off based on her experience and skill set, because she knew the trends and everything. This would have taken me probably another 20 years, right, to just get all the history. And so we were I was very fortunate that she took the time to do this. While it may seem like not full information, like you're saying, it's there, and it's something that will be improved and back to normal, which would be the drivers. My focus is using this as a learning tool myself to be better versed for you all as we prepare for budget, is to take what Marnie began and did this great work product and start filling in the gaps, and that's how I'll be able to know a little bit more about the city now, not this won't, help us in a year from now, but maybe for proposed budget to be able to come back with those questions for you all to say, hey, these mitigating factors, because to be quite honest, I did not go line by line with them, but that was, the makeup behind it.
Understood. I would just like to say Marnie has been a tremendous resource to the city for more years than I can count, and we're very fortunate that she was able to come back and help up to and including this. But I would also just say Jennifer was also a great resource in her short tenure, and one of the things that this commission really appreciated was that in many instances, she took a fresh approach and presented information in a new way. So as much as I'm sure you could get from Marnie's reports, I would also ask you to both look at the work that Jennifer did and also bring your own flair and your own presentation. I look forward to that. Thank you.
You got it.
I have to absolutely second what you said, Commissioner Conroy. The city has been steeped in old tradition for a long time, old reporting methods and things. I have no idea what the council or the city manager have tasked you with, and they're obviously in charge. But if you can bring a new and refreshed way of doing some of these things, I think we would certainly appreciate it. And very much to Commissioner Conroy's statement, I was looking at other areas of this internal service fund stuff right up until the point that Commissioner Conroy mentioned it. And when you look at the categories of mayor and city council, city clerk department, city clerk administration, and you look at just the 2 line items of information technology, equipment maintenance, and equipment replacement, you see these huge numbers in terms, at least in percentage wise, of what has changed. And then when you flip over to the IT department, it's exactly the reverse. So I think there's been some lumping there, and I'd like to just see something cleaner so it makes sense.
Okay, absolutely. I will tell you, when I first saw it, like I said, I did count my lucky stars because I was like, wow, this thing is super complicated. It was like, we're like Calc 3 again, you know what I mean? But, to kind of explain the thought process behind it, I was trying to be respectful to the craft, right? It's worked. Of course, I'm all about it, that new generation and streamlining stuff because, like, again, I think our due diligence is to take these complex inner calculations. I just thought being transparent with you all for you to see what it takes to do something. I didn't want to slap on $32 million and just be like, seems good. I wanted you to see what went into it so you can delve in and say, hey, when I read this, what does that mean? And be better versed. We may change it, like I said, but I was trying to be respectful at a system that I felt worked for this long. And there's always room for improvement, but I couldn't make those assessments just yet. It would be unfair to the process. So, but definitely I have that noted. And, it's a new breed. So definitely there's going to be a different flair. But like I said, I was being respectful to a craft that I think worked and kept us solid for a bit.
Well, I think you and staff did a heroic job considering all the constraints. And there is, there's just nothing but praise for all of you because you have certain timelines. We as a city have certain timelines, and I think you've done a very heroic effort, including Doug and Lori and everyone that assisted you.
No, I appreciate that. They do. I even exit myself out of that because I'm just the newbie here. They have kept it together. Sweat and blood goes into this thing, and I haven't seen a more dedicated staff. Like I said, I'm very humble to be part of them. And they're just, kind of holding on to me as I kind of level up to them and earn my stripe and stuff like that. But it's a joy to be part of the team. They, like I said, do more than just work. They really care about what they're doing, and it's great to be part of that team. So definitely, they've held it together. They're the ones that deserve the credit for this thing. So in moving that, I've made just kind of some comments and noted down what you had for the ISF, some, the capital improvements, prioritize the homeless visibility, right? As you're looking here in this presentation, I believe this is something that you were used to seeing, which was the summary of estimated revenues and appropriations. I'm going to, thought I could make it a little bit bigger, but maybe not. As you can see here for budget 22-23, going from the general fund on through, it's your estimated fund balances coming from the ACFR draft that we have right now for July 1st, 2022. Adopted revenues in the second column with your adopted appropriations in the third. Inclusive to that, that would be, of course, minus appropriations and then adding back in any transfers in. And removing any transfers out, giving you the estimated fund balance of June 30th, 2023. Going over some of the items, and I'll note just some things just to give you some visibility. General fund, of course, 11.9 start point with 100 million in adopted revenues, 106 mil in appropriations, 1.8 mil in transfers in, and then that 4.1 mil, leaving an estimated fund balance June 30th of 3,422,710. And that was on your admin report, that correlates to the 3,000,004. Same concept for each of these funds. We did not see anything that was outside of any different tune or not, but wanted to note some items as I learned them as well. Of course, your fund balance for the general fund removes 8.33 for the contingency requirement of your charter. And that has been set aside from that. That has been removed from that beginning fund balance of your general fund. And then I wanted to remind for when you look down, harbor tidelands and harbor uplands have always been and are a question. Those exclude capital, net of depreciation, and those assets, but we also include OPEB and pension liability back into those. That means that is not necessarily our cash position at the point, right? Because those are not going to materialize, but we do, because of their function as an enterprise fund, have to work those back in. Just to give you an idea, that pension liability for Harbor Thailand that gets worked back in is about $7.8 million. That's the OPEB liability and the net pension. And then for Harbor Uplands, 3.4 million is the total that gets worked back into that for net pension and OPEB as well. So just some factors as to why you see some of the items for Harbor Thailands and Uplands the way they are, because of the reporting structure of the fund. Any questions I could address or you'd like to pick at, so I have a better idea of this thing, actually does anything for you, or any improvements to it or any notes that you'd like me to make on that?
Well, I'm old, so I like simple, and I might be missing this, but if you scroll to the very bottom of this, if I understand what this says in column 1, where it says total city, that's adjusted down by 8.33%. If you
The
scroll
general fund beginning balance.
Right, very bottom. No, the very bottom. Minimum contingency reserve. I look at that as the grand total, which is just above that, says 96,510,000. Has that been adjusted down by 8.5%? And that's against the 82 million that has not been adjusted. Or how am I reading this?
So how you're reading this is that the 8.33 is taken out of your $11.9 million in beginning fund balance of the general fund.
Okay.
That's the contingency that's held for council for the general fund.
Okay.
So that 11 million has already factored that out.
Okay.
And we're noting that to you.
So when you scroll to the very bottom, that's about 800,000. So the difference between the 96 million where we started and the 82 million where we expect to end is that we're going to be down by 14 million plus another roughly 800,000 or 900,000. Is that what I'm really seeing?
No, what you're seeing is as a city as a whole with all beginning fund balances, right? $96,000 will end with all appropriations, right, and everything in, transfers in at $82 million fund balance.
Right.
Our fund, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But when I have a checkbook, if I start the month at 96 million and I end the month at 82 million, I'm down 14 million. But
Spent
that's
out.
14 million plus the other adjustment that you plugged into the beginning number that you didn't plug into the ending number.
Carries through.
No, let me see if I understand.
I'm not sure that makes any difference.
Doesn't the
now
adjustment
that I
carry
think of it out
through
loud.
from the
Yeah.
left column to the right column?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Bottom line is we expect to go into the new fiscal year down about 16%.
Down about 16%?
As opposed to.
From fund
last
balance, you
year.
mean?
Yeah, in
Left
terms
column
of.
to right column.
Yeah,
96 to
from column,
82.
yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. Not really a question, just a clarification.
No, that's, it helps me think like, okay, how do we explain that to you a little bit, clearer, I guess you could say, right? Because it gets a little muddled as to, because you got to remember fund balance has some commitments, like I said, that things aren't meant to be liquid, right? There's things that are never going to be cash. We got prepaids, we have loans out, we have things that never, but they're included in fund balance because they're committed, they're assigned or they're committed, right? Absences, we factor all that in. So let me think about this is always,
Keeping it simple for Mel and I. How would you simply explain that 15% reduction just from the leftmost to the rightmost column?
The self-insurance program.
I would say that if this would be explaining is all cylinders on track as scheduled with no anomalies like revenue going up and having better performance, yeah, it looks on the books. What we have right now from left to right, this is what should happen, right? This is where we're going to end up with the expenses we have, factoring in the economy and stuff. But what we're not factoring in is that these appropriations, like the estimates that we're projecting for revenue, we're going to have an overall 4% increase, right? We're going to have some cost savings on operational. We're projecting that. That's not really factored. This is just a straight line method to say, like your checkbook, I started with this, I'm going to spend this out, I'm going to make this income. This is where we're going to end up if everything's fine, but then life happens and we make more money, or we spend a little less, or we spend a little more, right? Based on the adjustments and what we see right now, we are going to trend to be conservatively at right now, net, right? Making some conservative gains in revenue, having some savings in appropriations, right? And expenditures, we're tracking there. And we should end up a little bit better. I just don't want to give you a projection that is so high and, huge percentages. So we are affording more than the business and we're almost at structural budget, right? To maintain our core services and we're trending correctly. That's what I would say. With this, like I said, it's just linear, with no anomalies. That's how I would explain that.
And so we end up at 82 million. How does that compare to what the original budget was for where we thought we'd end up?
How does it compare? This report doesn't give you that comparison to, well, it gives you the comparison straight up on your adopted budget. So that is your comparison to adopted budget.
Yep.
So you adopted.
Okay, well, let's see.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this isn't fair to ask you. This is really a city manager question. But the huge discrepancies are capital projects, which is $11 million, looks like $11 million less than what we anticipated in the original budget. And then 12 million for wastewater. And then the self-insurance program, it looks like somebody horrifically underestimated what the exposure was. Because we thought that we were going to have an $11 million credit, and instead, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry, got this late, so it's kind of hard to discern some of this. No, wait a second. Top of the column, adopted is the middle column, and we adopted 6 million. We ended up at 7. Okay, that's fine. I'm good on that. I don't know. Some of these things just don't exactly make sense. I've got to be able to sit and look at it, so I can't comment any further.
Looks like the biggest changes relates to the general fund, which we went into more detail about. And if you look at the change there, that carries through essentially to the bottom line.
Yep. I don't know. I can't make sense of it with this little time working.
Wendy wanted us to have the same experience she did, where she just got here and then had to interpret a million numbers in no time at all.
But she's buying us dinner.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. So, okay, I mean, fair enough. Like I said, giving you, timing is a factor, you know what I mean? It's a lot of information to devolve, you know what I mean? I guess, like I said, on a linear perspective, it gives you a estimation of where we are ending up. Continuing on, if I'm telling you right now that, based on what we reviewed per funds, we are tracking both in rev and appropriations, right? This gives you a good picture of if any fund is in trouble, we would be seeing it on the estimated fund balance that you're not having anything to savings. I'll tell you some things of improvement already that I think would be beneficial that I like to incorporate, and I'll see in the future is I'd like to tell you for every dollar earned, what it's going towards and how much of it we're putting into reserves. It's a future goal, right? It's like you should know for every dollar earned is 60%, just like your checking account, right? Is 20% of it going to expenditures? How much of it is going into savings and investments? Things of that nature, right? So we're going to get fancier a little bit to give you more relevant information so you know the ins and outs of everything. Fund balance, it's not that it's a complicated thing. I think it's made complicated in the way it reports sometimes, because it's pretty much simple, right? You got your savings, you get money in, money out, and what's the bottom line for the following period of time. So we will, I'll note that. That I wanted to know just where it sits in the world. On the middle of that same page where you see that's your ISF, that was, the one that's already appropriated in the 31 mil. That is the comparison when you hear me say that the 3% change in ISF, that was last year that's been appropriated as we go to council, right? We're looking to allocate that new charge, which ended up net 3% increase overall in ISF allocation.
Well, ISF is transfer in, transfer out. It should be net neutral, correct? So you can make that number any number that you want because it's moving money between departments. At a city level, it makes no difference.
Not necessarily. I mean, ISF is the allocation of the proportionate cost that it took to run those businesses, right? And that support that was given.
But within the city.
Within the city, correct.
Okay, so it's not money that flows into or out of the city, so it's...
Correct, it's a true up, right? Yes. A true up of those, that sprinkle, right, of services to that, so. Your following sheet, I believe also you've been used to it, sorry for kind of the Barney style of it. I had to add fun numbers to it because there is a ton of different names for everything. But this goes in that beginning balances that you saw at the fund summary level at the beginning of the page, and then goes into your adopted revenues, any carryover revenues, adds in the transfers in that you saw for those funds, fund summaries, and gives you that total revenue, and then of course starts getting all the uses out of it, giving you an estimated ending fund balance for that fund, right? And any adjustments to revenue and adjustments to appropriations on your exhibits, giving you a revised estimated ending fund balance. The one thing you'll note, of course, is that because we didn't have any decision packages this go around, there is none in any of the funds to be listing any revenue transfers or appropriation transfers. So as you read that, you're going left to right with each fund, beginning with fund balance, and then, like I said, revenue and appropriations, and the net effect of that, giving you that revised ending fund balance for each of the funds. Again, we note the 8.33 minimum taken out of fund balance for the contingency reserve. And then prior year encumbrances, I wanted to note that the process of just the behind the scenes is prior encumbrances are only reflected once we do a hard close for the system. And then, so these haven't really occurred, right? The reason is because once we have the ACFR in and done, we go close the system to bring back up for the new budget. And we're going to do that after that's done. So timing wise, we're in a different kind of time. It's been a little delayed. So that's going to happen and will be posted to the system. But I wanted to note that for you so you kind of know that everything's a little wonky just because of getting back on track, right, and speed. I'm not sure if it's the pleasure of this commission to, want to, obviously it's a lot of information to go look through. If you have and point out any questions or comments you may have on this, but like I said, it's all the funds giving you that snapshot view for you from beginning fund balance all the way to estimated new balance for the new year. I'm going to scroll down because it's a couple pages.
Any other questions? Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate your.
Okay. It gets better, I promise.
Yeah, it will.
It can only get better.
We're your biggest advocates, okay?
No, listen. You know what they say about Marines? We're kind of bullheaded, so we like it tough. So go ahead, You ask the questions, I feel better, to get them and stuff like that, because there's no way I could be the smartest person in the room. I hope not, because then we're in trouble. So feel free. Like I said, I really meant what I said when I needed the feedback in order to know, what it is that drives you nuts a little bit. And we'd like to keep the commission as happy and as clear of mind as we can. So this is a great time, like I said, to do it too. Walking you through again through the packet, this is just again, one of the customary forms that you see is the council approved appropriation modifications that happen, or, your budget amendments that happen through the year by fund, listing them out by item and then date of council action, which have been worked into that summary of funds for you, just to show you that all that has been applied and done as passed through by the council. So that's the backup and reference to that. It goes into anything you'd like, and also council date of action listed on the right-hand side, so you can reference that when that occurred.
If I may interject just for a moment, please. Thank you. For this slide, if you will note, you've got the Measure H pallet shelter grant there. So that's at least some of the disclosure for the monies coming in, grants that have been received from county or state organizations to support the hard costs of the pallet shelter. Mm-hmm. And if I'm reading that correctly, it's from the SB COG line, intergovernmental grants, 4 down, Measure H pallet shelter, $250,000. And then that might also have something to do from the Homeland Security grant. I'm not positive about that. That'd be a police department question. So some of those other details will be found in these intergovernmental grant areas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Solomon. Appreciate that. So navigating through, fund item number, council action date, and the quantities of those changes. Capital Improvement Fund, you go into hybrid tie-ins, every fund listed here that had any, with net effect of that of being $4,055,230 overall to date on council approved appropriation mods. This is an add-on to what you're traditionally used to. Normally you have the first two brackets in here. This is your general fund at this point, with major funds showing you the adopted, adjusted as we move from left to right, any increase and decrease in that budget, your actual performance per type of revenue for the current fiscal year. And then we took the snapshot from April to June, the same time frame this year, on what what the estimated revenue coming in during that time frame last year now, right, that we can kind of project, and then estimated that year end based on that, and provided you a variance in dollars and also a variance in percent from budget for you to have. So just to quickly summarize some items, like property tax right now, we're at 19.5 million. I had a little bit of a heart attack here because as I've been made aware in California, there is 2 payments to property ad valorem, unlike Florida where there is 1. So I thought we were going to have to close doors down at that point. Thankfully to see the CM, he said, calm down, we got it, there's 2. So I'm up to speed on California processes. So we're estimated to receive that 13 mil, roughly around that 13 mil. I did confirm with HDL and tried to get any idea of anything that was going to be off or any changes. They did not feel that there was. Everything was tracking, and we should expect these performances. So therefore, we're going to estimate that year end to end at about 33.2 mil, creating an increased variance of about 884,000. In relation to that, that's a 3% increase in property tax. Okay. The other significant ones, and where I kind of made my own flair and adjustments here, is that TOT has been obviously a big topic. It's been affected by quite a bit, and it's on the recovery path as we see it. We made some adjustments. I adjusted some of it to actual performance. Reason being is I didn't feel that I was well versed enough to say that projected this time last year was actually almost a $3 million increase in TOT towards the last 3 months. I wasn't sure I can promise that, right? And so I actually referenced it to actual performance, did a small divided by 12 and projected out the last 3 months at a conservative, amount, which shows, 149K reduction, but I think that's going to be well in pace, and it is steadily increasing. And recovering. I will have economic factors for you that may affect that and get a better pulse of the city to tell you with confidence, and of course with HDL's review of such items, and as I do some more analysis, to give you a better projection of that and any mitigating factors that could happen. But we see it on the uphill swing. So in overall, for the general fund, just in the category of taxes, we're looking at a conservative, 1% increase to budget overall these revenue types as it relates to taxes. That's how you're going to read down through all of these through license and permitting. As you can see, a 4% overall increase. Again, those estimates based on construction, street, and permits, all based on actual performance, and then a snapshot of April through June of last year and what we projected and had in coffers last year, which helped us determine and estimate and give you a significant or constructive estimate for the new year and how we'll end up at year end. Okay. I like to fall and be on the conservative side. I don't really like to rock and roll and get crazy too much, especially when it comes to financials. So this is, like I said, an overall view of the general fund with a conservative approach. And if there is any surprising increases that we see, like, as it relates, like I mentioned, TOT may come in a little bit higher, but we want to stay conservative to that so we can prepare for the what if in life and report the best to you. Okay. Overall, if you scroll down and as we go through the general fund, in essence, it's a conservative 4% increase in revenue performance that we are estimated till year end. We feel confident on that and continue monitoring, not just because it's mid-year, but we'll continue monitoring the performance of that to get a good sample of what has occurred in fiscal year 22-23. Any questions I may answer on this as a whole? Like I said, you've normally been used to seeing the first 2 columns and a little bit on a different spreadsheet and adjustment. What we thought we'd give you the whole picture. A little bit of the future is that due to, again, timing and just, what we could realistically do, this would include the additional funds and same process all throughout with all of them. I do have some information in the event you had any questions of other funds that was analyzed as far as revenue estimates for the other funds, but we focused on the general fund at this time to give you a good synopsis. Any questions or history or anything on the general fund and the reporting of this that I should take note or you would like?
I have a somewhat general question. So of the total variance of positive 4 million, the two largest pieces I see driving that are building and engineering fees and also the utility users tax. Again, it's only been 2 weeks, but if you or Doug have can speak to any of those increases, what's driving that, and is that expected to continue?
So in conversations with the city manager, one of the historical things are up and coming is the Galleria option is coming up and should continue to push that a little bit on construction fees as it develops. That's a major one that I know that he mentioned to me in the event you asked about what may be factoring that. The other thing was too on the utility, there was a change in the amount that was done. I did not pull with you to segregate it out, but originally that fee was about $7,500 and it's gone up to $25,000 or so like that. It's some, there's a fee in there. I'm getting more information so I don't misspeak, but there was an increase in a fee and that took an effect as to why that propelled, and we should see better performance because the development fee increased. But I'll get more information on that because I was briefed, and if anybody ever has met CM Mike, he is a ball of energy and briefs very quickly. Sometimes the pen doesn't catch up, so.
Thank you.
Other factors to note on this, and like I said, as we tweak this up, is those factors that, like you note, something that really kind of has a performance. We'll dig deeper to tell you the background and what's really driving anything, whether it be on the rev or expenditure side, to really tell you, hey, this is what is driving it, or we found what could be. And you'll have those maybe footnoted, or we'll put it there for your questions as you delve into it. Is it fair to say that the time frame that we were originally kind of discussing, just because this is a very condensed, packet, as we return back to whatever normal may look like here, are we thinking as a commission that a week's time of having this prior to the meeting is enough time to review a packet? Because you got to remember, as we get back to normal, you'll have decision packages, you'll have budget responses in that. It's pretty expensive. I can't say that I'm going to change all of it in one shot, right? Maybe it's more condensed and streamlined, but if that's a good time frame to kind of just note, that would give you enough to have some footing on this.
I think we'd be very happy to have it a week ahead of time. That would be fine.
Actually, I think it would be a luxury. Usually it's been like 3 days. So
A week would be fantastic.
Pretty fabulous.
Okay. And I'll confirm with the staff too, because they're probably like, Wendy's crazy. So, but Doug's kind of like keeping that face like, okay, but I'll confirm with them what's real and update you if I've just misspoken, and.
Doug's sweating over there.
Yeah. He's like, I guess it'll be submitted in a week,
Doug's going, I like Mel's comment.
Okay. Again, as we go down again, this is a pull a report to give you an idea. All the funds are listed here with an estimated expenditure by fund. This is summarized. This is your M&O, doing materials and supplies, equipment and contract services for each fund. Left to right, original budget, revised budget, with your actual performance to date, and estimated year end, where we're estimating that based on performance and burn, and then your estimated surplus or overage. It's not that I think you're going to get excited or nothing like that. I just want to be realistic with you, right? We see some numbers there. We'll have some savings, like projected $2.2 million in M&O, right? But salary tracks and payroll, we've had some increases in that. We're trending okay, but I don't want to overpromise anything that there would be these huge, markers, because M&O those savings may net out with personnel and what we have. We're digging deeper into giving you some information for some of the divisions that you saw in the packages, like you've asked, and I saw in previous council meetings as to what's leading to that. Payroll projections was something that was done this go around as quickly as could be estimated with 7 pay periods left, just to give you a good picture of what we project to end. So overall, this just gives you a good synopsis of our estimated surplus per fund. But digging in, like I said, we would provide a little bit more detail as to some of the drivers and the net effect of everything when you plug in payroll, salary, fringe, burn, cash outs, all that stuff. We factored it separately in this packet, but I thought it would be beneficial once time permits to give you an overall picture how all these pieces factor up together with the net effect, so you could see it in one shot.
This is helpful. One recommendation I have would be at the bottom of this table to have the total for each of the 2 or the 3 categories, and then, grand total.
And I think, like I said, you've given your feedback on the next portion of it was that ISF on a traditional, and, I was kind of forewarned about this when we went over it, when it was done. Like I said, we were, at least I was very happy and humbled that it got done, because connecting these dots, I'm not sure that could be done without that skill set and experience, right? So in the future, those lines would not be blank. They would all have comments. And I was realistically advised beforehand that it didn't look like this before. I did make an attempt. And to be quite honest, with 2 weeks, you kind of get humble really quick and say, wow, there was a lot of other factors that you don't know. So this would definitely be something. And like I said, I've noted some of the changes or clarifications that you would like to make this a little bit more. Because to be quite frank with you, I don't know all the inner workings of it. I do know the methodology, it's scripted and how it works and everything, but the actual, going from theory to actually doing it, I need to delve a little bit deeper and stuff to give you some good review, but I've noted what you have already as something that we can put you at peace, I guess you could say, once you get solid answers, because I don't know them at this point. All of them, most of them. And then finally, I think it ends overall with all the ISF that broke down to it. So like I said, as you see here, all these lines would have an explanation as to what happened there or what drove that. And then it gives you the fund ISF explanation per fund, just for you to have a 100,000-foot view of that ISF allocation and how it applies to each of those funds in totality. It was, I guess it's always been the custom of this commission. I'm not sure if you guys have stated if you don't like this report that much or have seen, I'm not sure of that, but that it was a good report to have, just needed some tweaking, or maybe customization for you all. Giving you a little bit of synopsis, like I've said, where we feel that, the budget is going and trending. We feel confident that it's trending at the levels that it was set, and would have some, outperformances in revenue conservatively, like I've noted. As it relates to finance and where we take it from here, I'm going to jump back on the saddle and go from here to proposed budget and rock and roll with that, right? And there's going to be a lot of items that, again, those packages will not be so extensive. We don't anticipate huge decision package trying to stay, I don't want to say flat, but on the same track. We don't expect many changes, like I mentioned earlier. I have some discussions with capital and things to just get a picture of where they're going, but the overall is, given the scenario we have, we want to trend accordingly, not overextend ourselves. There is a salary study occurring. There may be some personnel salary costs that we want to be ready for in the event that that happens. That is the trend, and I believe you received that message early on in another meeting as far as the vision of where we're going. On the lighter front, I have hired a administrative analyst. We're projected to hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll have one right before the end of April, coming with municipality experience, which would, I hope he's bushy-eyed and bright-eyed tailed because we're ready to go and he will be pretty much put into budget. But it will make a huge difference to have just another body, to do some BI and analytics to that. So as my father always says, if you're in it with everybody, you can't be alone in the fight. So that's where we are. We're levelizing and trying to kind of come back up, staff up, and, give you at least a solid picture that I have reviewed what I could with mid-year at this point to give you something that, it hasn't been unlooked at. We have a good idea and picture where we're trending, we're comfortable. And then trying to get back to, like I said, the typical reporting that you're used to with a little bit more guts into it. That's my spiel, I think, at this point.
Any other questions? Thank you again, Wendy. Items J and J1.
Before we move forward with the roll call vote, or a motion and a roll call vote, there were no public participation. There's no no Zoom speakers, and there's no e-comments.
Move to receive and file.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll follow with a roll call vote. Commissioner Conroy,
Aye.
Commissioner Castle,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jesty,
Aye.
Chair Commissioner Woodham,
Aye.
Commissioner Samples.
Aye.
Okay, we had the budget report. Item K, member items, refers to staff.
Yeah, we'll move on to item K, referrals to staff. If you guys have any referrals to staff to make.
I just want to once again welcome Wendy Colazzo, our new finance director, and given the amount of time and the tremendous amount of information you've had on your plate, I just want to say I appreciate the work that you put into this report and the fact that you showed up here really with ability to answer the majority of our questions very well. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
I join my colleague in welcoming you, and congratulations, and thank you for putting this report together in such a short time. So we're looking forward to much more productive and meaningful discussions. I'm sure there'll be many more items as we discuss these things. So thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
I would underline my fellow commissioners' comments and say that it took quite a bit of courage to show up tonight with what you had and to be able to defend it the way you did. So we appreciate that. The only thing I have is a comment primarily to Doug, but you may be should be aware of it also. Last year we had CalPERS visit with us in December, and budgeting will be out of the way by mid-year, right? By June. So if you would, I think it'd be helpful if you could contact our CalPERS rep and try to set that up for maybe the September meeting. The sooner the better. It takes them a while to get the data at the end of the fiscal year, so we want to have fiscal year returns. But at September or October, that would be ideal to have that meeting.
Yeah, I think last year, you're correct, they did come out later in the year. We probably kind of asked a little late to have them come out around September, October, but at that point he was already booked up. So this year I can, now that we've had one run with him and he's familiar with us, I'll contact him and see if he can come a little earlier this time. At least throw the invite a little earlier and see what he says.
Yeah, okay, just see what you can do.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm just wondering when we're going to put our new city treasurer on the hot seat. I have nothing for staff. Thank you so much, Wendy and Doug and everyone that worked on this.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, can I make one more comment? I think Wendy, for her first run, she did great tonight. We look forward to working with her. I just want to acknowledge Marnie Rulin, Lori Yamasaka, all the extra time that they put in. They didn't have to, they're set to retire. Marnie's gone, but, that's just how much they care about us, leaving us here as a staff still. So I can't thank them enough for what they've done, not just for our department, for the city, So I think they need to be recognized.
And I would like to add one more thing, and just to thank the entire financial staff. And again, I know we got this at the last minute, and I can tell that there's been a lot of work that was put into this, especially within the last 2 weeks. So we do appreciate and recognize the amount of work that's gone into this. And we, look forward to working with you in the future.
Likewise. Thank you. Like I said, it's, I couldn't agree more with Doug. I wish I could convince him otherwise, but, they got to go to greener pastures. And, but again, just the dedication and just good people, So I just want to note, because honestly, they were burning behind the scenes and, had to get to a point where I said, hey, I think I used the word divide and conquer, where I really was like, Lori conquer, and Doug out there. And, I had to tell Doug that I put commas when I breathe, kind of thing. And just the whole team, Robert, everybody just looking in. And you got to convince them to go home, which, so it's commendable how they've survived this long, and so, like I said, they take the truck on that, so we'll see if I can help out and make him proud and stuff like that, so, and the whole team. So thanks again to you gentlemen and this commission. And I definitely agree that Treasurer Solomon should be on the hot seat next time too.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah.
Nothing
Second.
else? Assuming.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you.